Now we're going to talk about conditional formatting. Conditional formatting is a powerful tool that allows you to set rules for a range of cells that dynamically change formatting based on conditions you create. You can use conditional formatting to make boring data much more visually appealing and digestible, which is useful when you're presenting it to a senior banker or a client, and sometimes when you're just exploring the data on your own to figure out how you want to manipulate and analyze it. Here, I've created an array of random data using Excel's rand between function to produce numbers between -100 and +100. If I wanted to get a sense for the highest and lowest numbers in this data set, visually and very quickly, I can't use conditional formatting, so I'm going to hit Alt H for home, O for conditional formatting. And here you'll see that you have a lot of different options in this menu, and I encourage you in your own time to explore the different options that you have here, because there are so many different things that you can do with Excel's conditional formatting tools. For now, we're going to hit N to go to New Rule, and we want to format all cells based on their values. This first option, what this is going to do by default is it's going to make our lowest values closer to the orange end of the spectrum, and it's going to make our highest values closer to the yellow end of the spectrum. So when I hit Enter, you'll see that all of this data has now been conditionally formatted based on its values. The lowest numbers are closest to the orange, and the highest numbers are yellow. What's really cool about conditional formatting is that if I hit F9 to recalculate these numbers, the conditional formatting changes dynamically as the cell values update. This type of formatting could be really useful when you're producing things like sensitivity tables in financial modeling. The logic that you use to conditionally format these cells can be as simple or complex as you like. Maybe you want to be able to quickly identify numbers that are above a certain threshold. I'm going to clear the conditional formatting, Alt H, O, and then C for clear rows and S for clear rows from selected cells. And before I create the new row, I'm going to copy these numbers and paste their values so that the rand between function stops updating. I want my numbers to be consistent for this example. Now I want to determine the threshold above which I want to highlight numbers in this range. I'm going to use this cell K2, and I'll type in the number 15 for now, so my threshold will be 15. And if any of the numbers in this range are greater than 15, I want to highlight them so that I can see them very quickly and easily. To create that row, I'm going to hit Alt H, L, and then N for new row. And I'm going to go to my second option, Format Only Cells That Contain. Now I want to format only cells with the cell value, and you'll see if I arrow down that I have a lot of different options here. So I'm going to choose cell value for now. I'm going to change the second option to greater than, and this third field is where I make a reference to my threshold cell. So I'm going to choose this cell with the value of my threshold. What this rule says is for every cell with the cell value of greater than my threshold, which in this case is 15, I want to create a certain type of formatting. Now we need to tell Excel what exactly that formatting is going to be. So we're going to go to Format, and the options here are going to be similar to what you see in the Control 1 menu. You can change the number format, your font, your border, your fill. In this case, we're just going to use a fill color of this light yellow color. And when I hit OK, you'll see that all of the numbers in this array that are greater than 15 have been conditionally highlighted yellow. What's really cool about this is that since the rule points towards cell K2 and makes the comparison using the value in that cell, I can now update the value, let's say to 90. And now I'm only highlighting the values that are greater than 90. I can change it to -10. And the conditional formatting updates with the value of my threshold cell. So now it's really easy for me to visually understand the data in this data set. Okay, now I'm super excited to share this next piece of information with you. Above all else, there is one conditional formatting trick that is going to change your life. And when you're looking at financial data, it's common to format that data by shading alternate rows. If I were starting from a blank slate and I try to do this manually, I highlight the row. I go to my shading, I select the shading color. Even if I'm using the shortcuts like F4 to go down and do this, it's going to be really tedious. So fast forward so you don't have to watch the whole thing. So that wasn't too bad, but it's definitely not the most efficient thing that I've ever done. And the major problem is that this is not just inefficient, but it's not robust. Meaning if I need to remove a row, I'm going to hit Shift Spacebar to highlight the row and then Control minus to remove it. Now all of the rows beneath the row I removed are incorrectly shaded. So I'm going to have to go in here, remove the shading, and then do it all again, start from scratch. This is annoying enough with a small data set like you see here, but what if you have something with hundreds of rows? This is quickly not a practical way to solve this problem. Now, prepare to have your mind blown because there's a better way to do it with conditional formatting. I don't need these fill colors anymore, so I'm going to remove it, and I'm going to hit Alt-H-L in to create a new rule, and I'm going to go all the way down to this bottom option, use a formula to determine which cells to format. The way that this option works is that if you create a formula that results in a true value or a 1 value, Excel will say, yes, I want to apply this conditional formatting to that cell. If the formula results in a 0 or a false value, Excel will not format it. Before we write our formula, let's tell Excel that we want to format the true cells with this blue shading. So the result that we want is we want every other row to be shaded. Now hang with me. We're in a star formula with the equal sign and the mod function. Now, mod is short for modulo, which is a word you might not be familiar with, but a function that is going to be very familiar to you. What modulo means, or this mod function, is similar to division. It means when you divide one number by a second number, tell me the remainder. So, for example, 10 modulo 3, if you divide 10 by 3, you're going to get 3 with a remainder of 1, right? So a 10 modulo 3 is equal to 1. It's what's the remainder when you divide 10 by 3. So the mod function in Excel has two arguments. The first argument is the number that will be divided, and the second argument is the number that you are dividing by. So in my first argument, I'm going to put row, R-O-W, open parenthesis, close parenthesis. So my first argument in the mod function is going to be the number of the row of each cell. The number I'm going to divide it by is 2, and then I'm going to close parentheses. So what the result of this function is means if you are in an odd numbered row, for example, 3, modulo is going to be 1. So 3 divided by 2 is 1 with a remainder of 1. So the outcome of this formula will be 1, which Excel interprets as true, which means that it will apply this format if the row is even. So for example, if you're looking at row A, 8 divided by 2 is 4 with a remainder of 0. So the output of this formula is going to be 0. Excel interprets that as false, and it does not apply conditional formatting. In effect, what this means is every cell that's in an even-numbered row will not be formatted, and every cell that's in an odd-numbered row will be formatted. Let's hit Enter and see what that looks like. When I hit Enter, you're going to see this beautifully, quickly formatted alternate shading. And what's awesome about this is conditional formatting is dynamic. So if I need to remove a row, all of the numbers of the row below the cell that I'd removed are updated now. So you don't have to worry about messing up your shading. And if I want to remove a bunch of these, I can remove it. My shading's fine. If I want to copy and paste some of them, no problem. So this is a super elegant, convenient, quick way to create this alternate shading pattern that you're probably going to use pretty often in finance.